Hey guys, Smart here from socialproofimage.com, and today I wanted to spend some time talking about dress shirts and ties. It's something I've been meaning to get to for a while, and today I thought it would be a good day to start. So back in the day, whenever I needed a dress shirt and tie, I would go to the local mall and I would go to a store that would sell dress shirts and ties. And what I would generally do is I would go to the back of the store and look at all the mannequins. And whatever dress shirt and tie was on display is what I usually ended up purchasing. So I'd come home and I would try the shirt and tie that I just purchased, and 9 times out of 10, I would realize the look just doesn't work for me. Either the tie made me look too old, or the dress shirt just was off, it didn't match my skin color. And today I have some tips and tricks to hopefully help you avoid this scenario. So the first tip that I have is dress for the occasion. So you want to figure out what event it is that you need your dress shirt and tie for. Is it a wedding? Something formal? Is it something casual like a date? Or is it something semi-casual like a dinner party? What I would do after that is figure out the colors for my dress shirt. If it was something formal, I would go with the more muted colors like black, gray, white. Sometimes I would do orange and red, which work for people that have darker skin like myself. My skin's dark, sort of tanned, and red and orange are colors that work really well for me. But generally, stick to, if it's a formal event, stick to the safe earth tone colors like blue, black, gray, white. And if it's something casual, you can experiment more. You can try the pinks and fuchsias and whatnot, but that again will come with experience when you figure out which color works for you. So the second tip that I have is the tie. I wanted to spend some time talking about the tie. How do you match your tie with your shirt? So with ties, there are several type of ties out there that you can buy. There is silk, which is the most popular and what usually works in a formal setting. There's cotton. Sometimes there's blends of cotton, like silk cotton. There's polyester, and there's knitted. Now polyester ties are, just don't go with polyester. It gives you a cheap look, and I don't know why they make polyester ties, and just stay away from polyester ties. I wanted to talk briefly about silk ties. Silk ties work really well for formal events. I recommend silk ties for formal events because they give you a nice clean look. And sometimes when you're going to a wedding, you want something simple. And now I wanted to spend some time talking about my personal favorite, which are knitted ties. Knitted ties are something I got into several years ago when I used to watch the HBO show Boardwalk Empire. Everybody on that show used to wear knitted ties, and I really, really liked that look. And by extension, it really got me into 50s and 60s fashion. So from that point onward, I would experiment with some knitted ties, and now it's become a staple in my wardrobe. I wear knitted ties more than I wear silk ties. So the thing with knitted ties is it gives you a really casual look. However, you can use a knitted tie to dress up a more casual outfit or dress down a suit. And one of the tricks I like to do is I usually do a single knot on my knitted tie and I leave the back portion hanging out which gives it a nice preppy look. Third tip that I have is I wanted to talk about the width of the tie, which is something that a lot of guys don't take into consideration. They usually go and buy whatever tie that they like and they don't factor in the width. And most ties come in 3.5, 3, and 2.5. And anything under 2.5 is considered skinny. Skinny ties are something that I generally like to stay away from. It might work for some people, but for myself, I like to stay away from them. And think of the brand Topman. If you're familiar with Topman, Topman makes a lot of skinny ties, and they usually have these like really thin models with these thin skinny ties. And in that scenario, if you're really, really thin and skinny, you know, a skinny tie works. But generally, I just don't like the skinny tie look. I'm like, if you're gonna go with a skinny tie, why even bother? Once you've figured out the width, you want to match it proportionally with your height. So if you're taller like myself, I like to go 2.5 because 2.5 works really well with my body type. If you're on the shorter side, I recommend you try the 3.5 to 3 inch width, which generally will work for people that are shorter. It gives them a more uniform look. And the third thing I wanted to mention is with your blazer or sports blazer, you want to look at the thickness of the lapel and you want to match it with the width of the tie. So, for example, I wear 2.5 inches and my lapels are on the thinner side. Most of my lapels are about 2 inches to 2.5 inches. So you want to make sure that the bottom of the tie matches the width of the lapel. So, for example, if you have a 3-inch lapel on your blazer, like a wider lapel, and then you want to generally go with a 3-inch width on your tie. So the last tip that I have is, how busy do you want your look to be? I mentioned earlier about colors of dress shirts, but I didn't talk about patterns, and I wanted to spend some time talking about patterns. Should you go pattern on pattern? Now, I know for a lot of guys that's really intimidating to hear. I often hear that pattern on patterns are they're too complicated, they're too messy, there's too much stuff to look at, but pattern on patterns work really well. And I would recommend that if you want to start doing pattern on patterns, you start with pinstripes. So for example, maybe you have a pinstriped tie, black or white, and a pinstriped dress shirt that's, let's say, blue. So usually pinstripes will work on pinstripes. So the black tie pinstripe will work on a blue dress shirt with pinstripes. So you kind of experiment like that. And once you've sort of understood the basics of pattern on pattern, you can go to something more complicated. So there's several brands out there that do patterns on patterns, like Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, Etro. I recommend that you check out Etro.com. You check out the brand Etro. Etro is really good at doing patterns on patterns, and it'll help you transition into the more busier pattern on pattern. So again, check out Etro.com. They really have some good stuff, and they'll give you an idea of how to do patterns on patterns really well. Now, that being said, I recommend that if you're going to a wedding, you don't do something too much that's too busy, too much pattern on pattern. At weddings, I like to keep things really simple because the job of standing out at a wedding should be reserved for the bride and groom, and your job should just show up and look nice or look clean. And I recommend that if you want to do a patterned tie, do a simpler dress shirt. If you want to do a really patterned dress shirt, do a simpler tie. I wanted to do a separate video on pocket squares, but I did want to quickly mention that when you're going to a wedding, I recommend that you use a pocket square. It's pretty simple to you just kind of pinch the middle, fold upwards, and then just put it in your pocket, and voila. And the last thing I wanted to mention are tie clips. Tie clips are really useful when you want your tie to obviously stay in place. but it kind of gives you an overall clean look. You can also, I recommend using a tie clip if you're wearing something casual, like a casual dress shirt or a casual tie. You can use a tie clip. It kind of gives you that really nice preppy look.